LaMelo Ball was ruled out of tonight's game with a right ankle injury as a result of this sort of awkward landing after this lave attempt. And in this video, we'll take a closer look at what exactly could be wrong. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and my goal in this channel is to help teach you about the medical side of the sports world. So in this case, if you're a basketball fan, you enjoy anatomy, then please consider subscribing to help support the channel. One of the most interesting parts of this injury right off the bat is the Hornets classified it as an ankle strain, not an ankle sprain, a strain. And we'll get to why that really could be significant. I think when we first saw this, when I was first looking back at the replay, I expected to see some sort of an inversion, sort of ankle sprain mechanism here. And if we keep an eye on LaMelo's foot, ankle, we're kind of looking right down here in this area. There really doesn't seem to be, at least in this view, any awkward twist or awkward inversion. We see him plant a little bit right here on that right ankle, but again, there's not like a twist. There's not really any significant roll or inversion like we typically see with an ankle sprain. As we look at this view from behind, we maybe get a little bit more of a clue of what might have happened with his ankle. But again, as he goes down and plants here, this right foot is going to be the one that we're looking at, this right ankle. And there really isn't any aggressive inversion or rolling that we see. He lands, the ankle and foot are plantar flexed, meaning the ball of the foot is pointed down. He lands more on that ball of the foot. There's maybe a slight little shift where we see the ankle go outward while he's in that plantar flexed forefoot loading position. But again, it's not like there's a big aggressive twist or inversion like we typically see with a classic ankle sprain. And this is where the update from the Hornets, I think, is actually really important if they were specific and intentional with their phrasing, because an ankle sprain is how we would classify an injury to the ankle ligaments, an ankle twist. But they said strain. And in the truest medical sense, a strain is an injury more so to a tendon or to a muscle. So that would suggest that the Hornets don't think this is an ankle sprain because they would have called it an ankle sprain, not an ankle strain. Now, if we look at our biodigital anatomy tool, there's a couple of kind of often injured or sometimes injured muscles, tendons, whenever somebody has that sort of a ankle twist, subtle ankle twisting position. On the outside of the ankle is going to be the peroneus longus and the peroneus brevis. These are two muscles sit right here coming off of the fibula. The brevis goes down and inserts right here on the base of the fifth metatarsal, and whenever it fires, it everts or brings the foot outward. The peroneus longus then actually goes all the way under the underside of the foot to the first metatarsal and has a little bit of roll in actually plantar flexing the foot. So these are two tendons that can become strained whenever somebody has an ankle inversion or a common ankle injury. Of course, the Achilles tendon, an injury to the Achilles tendon, would be considered an ankle strain. And if we go back and look at that, there really was no clear pop that we saw, but he did land on a bit of a plantar flex foot. Now, typically you'd land on more of a dorsiflexed foot for an Achilles rupture like this. So that would be very, very low in my differential. But I think we have to remember that difference between ligaments being sprains and tendons being strains. And I don't think they would have said strain if they really thought this was just a run-of-the-mill ankle sprain. So a little bit unusual. And I do often worry more about acute sudden tendon injuries more than I worry about ligament injuries. Now, I will say before we got the update that it was an ankle injury, I was actually more concerned about LaMelo's foot. If you pay attention here to, again, what's going on in his right foot, this reminds me a lot of what we saw with the foot position of Chet Holmgren whenever he had his Liz Frank injury. You land on this plantar flexed foot, you see as the ankle swings out, there's a little bit of a moment that goes through the midfoot, some additional force through the midfoot, which can injure that Liz Frank ligament. This is very similar to what we see with non-contact Liz Frank injuries, almost exactly what happened with Chet. Different type of play, but where he was going backwards, landed on that kind of plantar flexed foot, and then we saw that little subtle shift in the ankle. So I know they called this initially an ankle injury, but I wouldn't be shocked if we find out in the coming days that maybe all this settles more to the foot and could be a midfoot injury. LaMelo's had just some unusual injuries. Of course, he had that ankle fracture where it looked like nothing significant whatsoever happened, and then we found out he had broken his ankle. So there could be another just unusual component with his history here. But I think it's important to pay attention to that difference between a sprain and a strain. A strain, remember, is typically an injury to a muscle or a tendon, and a sprain is an injury to a ligament. If this is truly a strain around the ankle, then we're talking about something probably like the Achilles, the peroneus longus, or brevis. And depending on the severity of the strain, that'll influence, obviously, the recovery. However, the mechanism, like I said, made me think more about the foot. And so sometimes we'll see pain sort of settle into a different area, settle into the midfoot. And it wouldn't be shocking if we found out this was more of a midfoot injury like a Liz Frank. So stay tuned to the updates. A little unusual here. Again, I didn't see any true ankle twister inversion, and they called it a strain. So I don't think he's dealing with just an ankle sprain. Let me know as always any questions or comments down below. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.